In the village of Mizinga, nestled between rolling hills and vast plains, a sense of unease had settled like a dark cloud. Once a prosperous and peaceful community, Mizinga had become a shadow of its former self. Their crops had been burned, their cattle stolen, and the young men taken in the dead of the night. These raids were believed to be the work of the warriors from Kijiji Chasimba, a village feared for its fierce fighters and led by the legendary Kiongozi. Mizinga's council of elders conveyed in a dimly lit hut. The air inside was heavy with the scent of burning herbs meant to clear the mind and strengthen resolve. Mzee Bahati, the eldest and most revered among them, sat at the head of the council, his face furrowed with lines of age and worry. His voice, though frail, carried the weight of years of wisdom. We can no longer sit idly while our people suffered, he declared, his tone resolute. Kijiji Chasimba has brought this war to our doorstep. We must strike back, but we must do so wisely, not with brute force, but with precision. A blow that will shake them to their core. The elders murmured in agreement, their voices a chorus of anger and frustration. Among them was Chuma, a young elderly with a fierce spirit and a hot temper. We should attack them head on, he shouted, slamming his fist on the wooden table. Show them we are not weak. Mzee Bahati raised his hand, silencing Chuma. No, Chuma, that is what they expect. We will not win this war by playing their games. We need to strike at their heart, to break their spirit. All eyes turned to a man standing quietly in the shadows at the back of the hut. Kato, the village's most feared assassin, had a reputation that stretched far beyond the borders of Mizinga. His face was obscured by a hood, but his presence was unmistakable. Known for his deadly skills and his loyalty to those who had him, Kato had become a weapon that many had sought too wild. Mzee Bahati spoke directly to Kato, his voice a mix of desperation and hope. Kato, you are the only one who can do this. We need you to eliminate Mzee Baraka, the uncle of Kiongozi. They say he is the one who advises Kiongozi, the one who fuels his bloodlust. If we remove him, we believe Kijiji Chasimba will falter. Kato remained silent, his eyes narrowing under the shadow of his hood. He was a man of few words, and his silence spoke volumes. He had no love for Kijiji Chasimba, but neither did he hold any particular loyalty to Mizinga. For Kato, the only thing that mattered was the job and the payment that came with it. After a moment, he nodded. I will do it, he said simply, his voice low and emotionless. But I do it my way. Mzee Bahati nodded, a look of relief washing over his withered face. Of course, Kato, as long as the job is done, you may do it however you see fit. Kato set out that very night, moving like a shadow through the dense forest that separated Mizinga from Kijiji cha Simba. The journey was long and treacherous, but Kato was accustomed to such travels. He was a lone wolf, a man who thrived in isolation. He had learned long ago that attachments only led to weakness, and weakness was something he could not afford. As he approached the outskirts of Kijiji cha Simba, he saw the glow of fires in the distance. The village was larger than Mizinga, its warriors known throughout the region for their strength and brutality. Kato knew that getting closer to Mzee Baraka would not be easy, but he had a plan. Kato waited patiently for the night to fall, knowing that the cover of darkness was his greatest ally. He had scouted the village from a distance and had seen Mzee Baraka sitting alone by the fire, deep in thought. Kato knew this was his moment. He moved silently, his steps muffled by the thick underbrush, his hand gripping the hilt of his blade. As he approached, he saw Mzee Baraka more clearly. The old man was frail, his silver beard glistening in the firelight. He looked like a man burdened by the weight of his years, but there was a sharpness in his eyes that belied his age. Kato knew this man was dangerous, not because of his physical strength, but because of his mind. Kato crept closely, his blade ready to strike. But just as he was about to make his move, he heard a soft voice behind him. Stop! Kato turned quickly, his blade at the ready, and found himself face to face with a young woman. She was beautiful, with dark skin and eyes that seemed to peer through him. She was holding a small knife, but Kato could tell she was not skilled in its use. She was scared, but she was trying to be brave. Who are you? She demanded, her voice trembling. Kato stared at her, his mind racing. This was not part of the plan. He had not expected anyone else to be here, especially not a woman. He knew he had to act quickly. Before she could scream, he grabbed her, covering her mouth with his hand. Quiet, he hissed. If you want to live, you will do as I say. The woman nodded, her eyes wide with fear. Kato knew he couldn't kill her yet. Not yet. She was his only leverage. He pulled her away from the fire, back into the darkness, and whispered in her ears, Who are you? The woman hesitated, her voice barely a whisper. My name is Amina. I am the Baraka's niece. Kato had skipped a bit. This was worse than he had thought. If she was Mzee Baraka's niece, then she was also Kiongozi's sister. Killing her would not just provoke Kijiji cha Simba, It will enrage them. Kato knew he had to change his plans. Kato decided to take Amani back to Mizinga. She was a valuable prisoner, one who could potentially be used to negotiate with Kijiji cha Simba. But as they traveled together, something unexpected began to happen. Amani was not like anyone Kato had ever met. She was strong-willed and intelligent, and despite her fear, she did not beg for her life. Instead, she spoke to Kato with a calm and steady voice, asking him questions about his life, his past, and why he did what he did. Kato was taken aback by her curiosity. He was not used to people wanting to know about him. Most people feared him, and those who didn't often wanted something from him. But Almani genuinely seemed interested, not in Kato the assassin, but in Kato the man. As the days turned into weeks, Kato found himself opening up to Amani in ways he had never done before. He told her about his childhood, about how he had been raised an orphan as a young boy and had been taken by a group of mercenaries who had taught him how to fight and how to kill. He told her about the loneliness he felt, about how he had never known a true home or a family. Amani listened intently, her eyes filled with empathy. She told Kato about her own life, about how she had been raised by her uncle after her parents had died. She spoke of the harshness of her upbringing, of the expectation placed on her as the sister of Kiongozi, and of the loneliness she felt, a world where she was expected to be strong and unyielding. Kato and Amani began to form a bond, one that went beyond prisoner and captor. They began to see each other as human beings, each with their own pain and their own dreams. Kato found himself drawn to Amani in ways he had never felt before. And Amani too found herself caring about Kato despite everything he had done. One night, as they sat by the fire, Amani looked at Kato with a seriousness that he had not seen before. Kato, she said softly, there's something I need to tell you. My uncle, Mzee Baraka, is not the man you think he is. He is the one who has been orchestrating the raids in our village, not Kiongozi. He is a cruel and manipulative man, and he has caused so much suffering even to his people. Kato listened in silence, his mind racing. He had always thought of Mzee Baraka as a wise elder, a man who advised Kiongozi out of a sense of duty to his village. But now, hearing Amani's words, he began to see things differently. He began to see Mzee Baraka as a man driven by his own ambitions, a man who would stop at nothing to get what he wanted. Cato knew he had a choice to make. He could continue with his mission, delivering Amani to the elders of Mizinga and letting them decide her fate. Or he could defy his orders and forge a new path. He chose the latter. Cato decided to follow his heart for the first time in his life. He could not bear the thought of delivering Amani to the elders of Mizinga, knowing what they might do to her. He had seen enough bloodshed, enough pain. Amani had become more than just a prisoner. She had become someone he cared deeply for. As they traveled further away from the borders of Mizinga and Kijiji cha Simba, Cato found a secluded place deep in the forest, far from the reach of either village. They made a home in an abandoned cabin, hidden among the tall trees and thick underbrush. There, they started a new life, away from the violence and the hatred that had defined their pasts. But the world would not let them forget who they were. Months passed, and Cato and Amani lived in relative peace. They farmed the land around their new home, hunted in the nearby woods, and built a life together that was simple but fulfilling. For the first time in his life, Cato felt content. He had found something he had never thought possible: love. Amani too had changed. She was no longer the scared girl who had been taken from her home. She had grown stronger, more confident. She loved Cato deeply and found a sense of purpose in their life together. But she also carried a burden of secrets, secrets that weighed heavily on her heart. One evening, as they sat together by the fire, Amani took Cato's hand, her expressions serious. Cato, there's something I need to tell you, she began, her voice trembling slightly. I have not been completely honest with you. Cato looked at her. His eyes bore furrow with concern. What is it, Amani? She took a deep breath, her eyes meeting his. I am not just Mzee Baraka's niece. I am also a leader of a secret faction within Kijiji cha Simba, a group that has been working against my uncle for years. We believe he has been leading our people down a path of destruction, using the raids to consolidate his power and instill fear. Cato's eyes widened in shock. Why didn't you tell me this before? Amani looked down ashamed. I was afraid. I was afraid that you would not believe me, or that you would see me as an enemy. But I realize now that I have not been honest with you. My uncle is a very dangerous man, Cato. He has been using the raids to manipulate both our villages, putting us against each other to further his own ambition. Cato sighed in silence, processing Amani's words. He felt a mix of emotion, anger of being deceived, but also a deep sense of understanding. He knew what it was like to be trapped by expectations of others, to be forced into a role that went against one's own nature. I believe you, Amani, he said finally, his voice steady. But what do we do now? Amani looked at him, her eyes filled with determination. We have to stop him, Kato. We have to expose his treachery and put an end to his madness. If we don't, both our villages will be destroyed. Kato nodded. His jaw set. He knew she was right. They could not run from their pasts forever. It was time to confront the darkness that had hunted them for so long. Kato and Amani spent the next few weeks planning their next move. They knew they could not take on Zebaraka alone. They needed allies. Amani suggested they seek out members of her factions, those who had been secretly working against her uncle. She believed they would be willing to help, especially if they knew that Kato, the feared assassin of Mizinga, was on their side. Kato was hesitant at first. He had spent his entire life relying only on himself, trusting no one. But he knew that this was bigger than him. It was bigger than a man. It was about stopping a man who had caused untold suffering and who would continue to do so unless he was stopped. They made their way to Kijiji cha Simba under the cover of the night, moving stealthily through the forest. Amani led Kato to a hidden cave where her faction met in secret. Inside, they found a group of men and women, all dressed in dark clothing, their faces serious and determined. Amani stepped forward, her voice strong. Friends, I have returned, and I bring with me someone who can help us. This is Kato, a skilled warrior from Mizinga. He has seen the truth about my uncle, and he is willing to join our cause. The group murmured among themselves, clearly surprised. A tall man with a scar running down his face stepped forward, his eyes narrowed. How do we know we can trust him? He is from Mizinga, our enemy. Kato stopped. He stepped forward in and gazed steadily. I am no one's enemy, but those who seek to bring harm to the innocent. I have seen the pain your uncle has caused, and I want to help stop him, not for any village, but for the people who have suffered because of his greed. The room fell silent. Then an older woman with silver hair nodded. Very well, Kato. We will give you a chance. But know this. If you dare betray us, we will not hesitate to kill you. Kato nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. I understand. I am here to help, nothing more.